Hi, so today, part of the theme this week on rainforests, we're looking at the issue of erosion. And we know erosion occurs at a much faster rate when in an area of deforestation, which we know is happening in the rainforest at the minute. And although we're looking at the consequences of deforestation of the rainforest in terms of carbon footprint, it's also really important to consider the long-term impact that something like deforestation can cause. And we do it locally, it's not just a rainforest issue. So what we're going to do to study this is we're going to build up soil profiles in both of our two bottles here, and then we're going to consider the impact of adding a living organic layer. And what we will be measuring is the amount of water runoff we get from our soil profile with and without organic matter. We're also then going to create our own cultivation pan, which happens quite often on farmland and on new development land when there's been a significant amount of heavy machinery, traffic, or cultivation at a fixed depth over a long period of time. We see a clay pan form, and that's basically an impermeable layer of clay which doesn't allow water to pass through it and can often cause a perched water table. Now, perched water tables and compaction and erosion are all live issues when we talk about the impact of climate change. We have a lot more running water around, rainfall tends to be heavier, and in an environment particularly where, such as a development where there is more hard landscaping than there would have been previously, we can see a lot more surface runoff, and more surface runoff than absorptive layers, I can't say that word, means that we're much more likely to suffer from flooding. So what is a soil profile? So the soil profile is the cross-section of the soil if you were to cut straight through it. And what you would see is the different soil horizons. And soil horizons are the relatively uniform layers parallel to the surface of the soil that are distinguishable from the layer above and the layer below. At the very bottom, we have parent rock, which is the foundation of our soil. All of our soil comes from the parent rock, which we're going to demonstrate with some bigger bits of gravel. Now, what happens, the primary process within pedogenesis, which is the formation of soil, the primary processes are those of weathering, so mechanical and chemical weathering that break down the parent rock into smaller and smaller pieces. So we go all the way through from gravel, through sand, through silt to clay. And then we have the organic part of the soil. So the organic matter, as that breaks down, that's called humification. And that adds the live element to our soil, the thing that affects the cation exchange capacity, the water absorption capacity. But when we talk about types of soil, we're really talking about the texture of soil. And that is when people talk about having a heavy clay soil or a sandy soil. And it's all the same three elements. Obviously, their mineral makeup will be different depending on the parent rock that they came from, but it's all about the different proportions of different sized particles. So sand is everything up to 0.2 millimeters across, and then 0.2 to 0.02 millimeters across you get silt, and anything smaller than 0.002 millimeters across is clay. So when we will look at this differently, but it's a good opportunity to have a look at these three elements. Guys, do you want to have a look at these three? Well, what we're actually going to do is build up some soil profiles of our own. So we're going to start with this. So you can do as much of that as a sensory activity as you like, using the different materials and making different squishy shapes. So what we're going to start with is our parent rock. So that's the big particles. So take your soil profile.
Yeah.
They're just milk bottles
Turned
with
into boats.
exactly, they were turned into boats. So we've just cut this bit out. And we'll keep the lid on, that's right. And now we're going to put sand in our profile.
Dirty.
If you're not the kind of parent that is happy with soil all over the kitchen table, this is probably better done outside. The reason with this profile is going to be what?
Because it's not going to have any really soil on it. Oh. It's not going to have the silt on it.
It is. The silt is in here.
Oh, because it's the
Yeah, it's got a living organic
got a living thing, organic
soil horizon.
Now can I put the water in?
Right, hang on 1 sec.